this. There we go. Alrighty, so today's topic is what's wrong with me, and this is an important topic. We're not going to actually talk about what's wrong with each of us individually here. We are going to look at, we're going to actually do a case study, walk through an iris analysis exactly the way it would happen in a clinical setting in my office. Okay, this is just to show you that these online analyses that people are doing that just drive me crazy. Oh my goodness, where people post the photos and somebody who apparently knows something about iridology gives this long list of every marking, and then the long list of what every marking means, and then the long list of everything this person needs to do. It's like, oh my goodness, just shoot me now and get it over with. Seriously, that is so the wrong way to do iridology, and I am absolutely convinced that is the wrong way to do iridology. They may be giving good information. They often aren't, because they are using old and outdated modalities. But the fact of the matter is that what we want to do here is really debunk those myths. So we are going to walk through an entire first appointment iris analysis. And you're going to see how well this works in a clinical setting. All right. And this is so important. Hi, Hamid. Good to see you on Instagram. Thanks for joining us. As we look at this, and I'm going to move my camera as close as I can. Sorry if that bright light got you in the eyes. My apologies. There we go. Move that as close as we can so you can see this eye photo really well. If you have an iridology background of any sort, you're seeing all kinds of markings in here, right? You're seeing all kinds of stuff. You're seeing just tons of information in there. It is not helpful to your clients to talk about every little thing that you see. It's actually not even necessary, because every little thing you see is not important. I know that probably makes you go, oh, what do you mean not important? And I'm telling you, it's not important. Okay, every little detail you see is not important. So let's do this. You ready? Yeah? All right. This is the eye of an early 20-ish female. She's just recently graduated from university, and she is a school teacher. She's landed her first job, and she landed her dream job. She is working with special needs kids, mostly autistic kids. And so she just works with 2 or 3 children all day, every day, and she loves it. Now, this is a left iris, and it has what we call frontal lighting. And that's a really important thing to know. When we say frontal lighting, we mean we've got 2 lights and it's coming from the front. You need to know up front that frontal lighting hides marks. Okay, but we're going to work with this image anyways, because we're just going to work with it. And so we're going to work with what we see. Now, when we do an iris reading, we don't tell people, I see this mark, it means, I see this mark, it means, I see this mark, it means. That's totally useless information. Totally useless information. The very first thing we do is we ask, what does our client want help with? Now, why would we do that? You know, some people say, well, that's cheating. They're telling you what their problems are. And I'm saying no, because I'm not using the eyes to tell me what their problems are. I'm using their eyes to help me understand how their body works, and that will help me to understand what I need to do to help them with the problems they're having. Iridology is not a diagnostic tool. We don't diagnose disease from the eyes. We can assess the inherent potentials that this body has. And those inherent potentials are, how does this body use nutrients? How does this body, where are the potential weak links that may show up if this person is not taking the right care of their body? Because truthfully, every problem a person has doesn't necessarily show up in the eyes. And why would I say that? I would say that because not all problems are inherent. Some problems are just earned, right? And if you earn the problem, it doesn't change your genetic structure, and therefore it doesn't change the eyes. We're looking for inherent potentials. All right, so this client came to me depressed and anxious. She said she had an upset stomach with lots of pressure in her midsection every time she eats, and that it's getting worse. She has acne that's also has been getting worse for the past 3 months. So knowing that and seeing her eyes, I needed to ask more questions, right? I need to know, what has she done? What is she doing? What is her lifestyle like, to be able to give her information that is valid. I'm not going to spew out all kinds of stuff because she might already be doing some of the right stuff. And that does me no good to waste her appointment time reiterating what she already knows. So my next question was, are there any foods that create more problems for you in your gut than other foods? So doing that comparison. So are there foods that she's learned to avoid, or foods that she knows she can expect to have a problem with if she eats them? She said no, but then she qualified it. She said that she has a history of being dairy intolerant, so she avoids dairy. Okay, so we already know dairy is a problem. And she has 1 cup of coffee every day, but it doesn't seem to aggravate anything. We continue to ask her about her foods, and she said she drinks about 1 liter of water a day. She weighs about 125, 130 pounds, and she's about 5'5" or 5'6". So she's at a good body weight. She eats a lot of vegetables, and she does a mix of raw and cooked. She typically has 1 to 2 fruit per day, but she does eat yogurt and cream cheese. She finds that they don't bother her system the way milk does. She likes shrimp and salmon and poultry. She uses olive oil and avocado oil. And for grains, it's mostly bagels and oatmeal. Okay, so we're looking at this eye and we're getting a feel for, and I'm just trying to see around my microphone, there we go, getting a feel for the kinds of things that affect her. So this again is her left iris. So it's the same one we were just looking at, but notice now we have side lighting. I want to pop back again. Look carefully. Do you see that with side lighting, these wrinkles show up? Let's go back one more again. They didn't show up much here, a little bit. If you know what you're looking for, you would see them, but they're not really pronounced. It's not until we go to side lighting, because side lighting casts shadows. Okay, so when I looked at her eyes, I got really excited, because the eyes tell us not just about how the body is inherently put together, but it tells us how the person is emotionally inherently put together. And so I looked at her eyes and I went, wow, you're an introvert, aren't you? And she went, what do you mean? I said, you like your alone time and you like small groups. You do not like big crowds. And she smiled and she said, yeah, that's me. She said, that's why teaching special needs kids is wonderful, because I'm not in a room with 30 kids. I'm in a room with 2 or 3 kids. I'm going, yes. And I said, and you really hold your stress in your gut, don't you? And she went, oh my goodness. When I get uptight, my stomach, my whole midsection just turns into a knot. And I'm going, yes, that's exactly what her eyes are telling me. Then I asked her, do you find teaching to be creative? Because her eyes tell me she has this massive creative streak. And if she's not honoring that creativity, she will never be fully well. And she said, yeah, teaching is super creative, especially with autistic children. I have to find different ways to reach them and different ways to communicate with them and different ways to understand them. And it just is so creative. So her iris itself suggests that she has potential for issues with blood sugars, with her hormonal system, including reproduction, and that she, because her right eye, Yes, we're going to look at her right eye next, but because of what her left eye looks like compared to her right eye, she tends to have a better relationship with her mom and better relationships with women in general, although she's got a lovely boyfriend. This is the right iris. And again, it reaffirms that she's an introvert. There's no surprise there. And she has her parents are divorced, and she has a really rocky, anxious relationship with her dad. It's not good at all. This also reaffirmed all of her GI tract predispositions. And really what we see in her eyes is that she has a huge predisposition towards having an insufficient gut. That her stomach in particular, but also her intestinal tract, just inherently, genetically, probably are not strong. And that we are always going to have to watch that with her. We are always going to have to be very cautious. So everything right in here teaches us about her gut, about her stomach lining, her ability to digest proteins, teaches us about her personality. Then right out here, it teaches us how well she transports her nutrients. And that's an interesting thing as well, because if she's not breaking things down, how can she possibly transport anything that is of value, right? So when we see this, we're going to have to work with that digestion some. All right, so again, here's that right iris. Notice how the wrinkles in her eye absolutely pop when we've got the side lighting. Let's go back one again. Frontal lighting, can't see wrinkles. Side lighting, they're all there. So, you know, when people ask, I'm going to do a little side trip here with you right now. When people ask me, can I get good iris photos with my cell phone? The answer is no, you just can't, because you don't have control over the room lighting, over the lighting in general. Then they'll say to me, well, I found this iriscope thing online. It was $97 or it was $299. How about that? I'll go, no, because the lights are all what we call fixed lighting. So it's like this, but you can't turn any off. So you've always got fixed frontal lighting, which means you're hiding things. And those devices are typically not meant for taking images of a curved surface. And so you lose definition. So they're not great, not great at all. They're also only typically 5 megapixels, some are 2, which means you do not get great resolution. What we're looking at is images that are 24 megapixels to get the detail. So again, the side lighting makes all the wrinkles, or we call them contraction furrows, show up. When we see someone who's got this many pieces of contraction furrow in her eye, and she had them in her left eye as well, we know that she lives in her sympathetic nervous system, that she's always at the edge waiting for the next crisis to happen. That is very classic for an eye for someone who has anxiety issues and depression issues. This underscores for her that predisposition to needing ongoing, lifelong nerve nutrient support and self-care to manage her stress. She needs to make sure she learns skills to help her deal with her stress, to help her offload the anxiety, to help her learn how to think through problems in a different way so they don't pile up on her. So in her first, hello Farmhouse, good to see you again. On her first appointment, that's all we did. That's all we did for talking about where the issues show up in her eyes. You'll notice, I'm going to pop back a couple of slides. We didn't talk specifically about this and this and this and this and this. We did not. We did not talk specifically about this or about these, because my client didn't bring in concerns that had anything to do with those. So we wanted to make sure we kept laser focused on what she needed first, because that's where she wants to see results first, right? If you go off on all these bizarre tangents, the client doesn't feel heard. If you stay laser focused on what they asked for, the client feels very heard. And when the client feels very heard, it's so much easier to work with them, to teach them. So recommendations in that first appointment looks like this. Get rid of the coffee. Coffee does all kinds of things to the stomach lining. If it's caffeinated coffee, it does all kinds of things to the adrenal glands, the thyroid. I mean, it wreaks havoc in the whole body. Even just one cup. I always liken it to a pebble in your shoe. If you had one pebble in your shoe, would you leave it there? No, you stop and you kick it out, right? Same with the coffee. So we had her eliminate that 1 cup of coffee, and we needed her to add protein to her breakfast. Going out of the house to work with children on coffee and a bagel is not good nutrition. It's not going to hold her. It's not going to keep her blood sugars really steady. So we needed her to add protein, and suggested, since she tolerates eggs, that she could do a couple of eggs for breakfast every morning. That she would also need to chew them well, because if she wasn't chewing them really well and breaking them down into little tiny bits, her stomach was going to probably have problems finishing the job for her. We also added about 1/4 cup of kefir. That's Kefir. Some people call it kefir. Depends on whether you're European or North American, because that is one of the best sources of broad spectrum probiotics. And there have been some interesting studies here at the University of Calgary that show that probiotics in capsules don't stick in the gut, but probiotics from food and prebiotic foods will make that healthy flora stick. So we wanted to go with foods for her. We suggested also that she would benefit from using a stress formula, a B vitamin with vitamin C that also has herbs in it, to help her with her stress and anxiety, to help just even her out a little bit. And because sleep surfaced as being a bit of an issue with the anxiety, we suggested using some passion flower for sleep. Now, she's got some marks in her eyes that suggest that her liver might not be super efficient at dealing with the phase 1 and phase 2 detox. Now, this may sound like it's going off on a tangent, but it's not. And that's why I'm saying that, is because when you study traditional Chinese medicine, TCM says that depression and anxiety come from the liver. And so giving her something like N-acetylcysteine, which works on both phase 1 and phase 2 liver detox, covers off what we need. That was the entire iridology for the first appointment. We didn't overload her with a billion different things. It wasn't this long list of all these marks and all these problems and all these solutions. It was laser focused on what the client wanted. Remember, she had depression and anxiety, she had gut problems, and she had skin problems. Now, we know that skin problems often come from the gut. We know that hormonal problems often come from the liver not doing its job, and the NAC is going to cover off on that for us as well. And so we actually could take care of the skin, the gut, the anxiety, the depression, really be making positive moves to supporting her with those and helping her to make progress. We met again 5 weeks later. Now, meeting is an interesting term here. Her mother lives here in Calgary, and that's where she was living when we had our first appointment. But when she landed that job, she now lives 3 hours away. So her second appointment, which was 5 weeks later, was actually a Zoom appointment, which is very cool. Love tech, because it means we can keep in touch and do her appointments. She said her gut was so much better. And she had also then, with the work we had done, discovered that gluten is a part of her issue. So she decided to take the gluten out on her own, which is great. We'll have her gluten-free for a while. We'll continue working, and we will continue doing some rebuilding. And in that, we will then, in a year or two, probably be able to reintroduce gluten. Her depression was still pretty high at this point in time, but this was last fall. This was about September that we had her second appointment. And since then, she's had a lot of life changes. Like, her boyfriend is in the military. He got deployed to go to Iraq, I think, for 6 months. So she was really bummed out, and he was leaving at Christmas time, like Merry Christmas. And they knew that was coming up. So she was starting to get a little bit depressed about that. But she said her anxiety was improving somewhat. She's also had become much more aware, because we had really talked about depression and looking for triggers for the anxiety. And she discovered that her depression is her response when she thinks she's being attacked. So she'd had an incident at school where one of the parents was not happy with a decision that my client had made. The principal of the school totally agreed with my client that it was the right decision to make for the child's safety and for the safety of all the other children. But my client felt that she had been very attacked, that thank goodness her principal was backing her on this. And that threw her into a bit of a depression. And fortunately, we had a meeting 2 or 3 days later, and we were able to kind of work with this. We've taught her also, because she is an introvert and she's a very sensitive / pretty intuitive person. So she picks up on a lot of what's around her. And a lot of introverts are like that, where they're very sensitive to other people's moods and emotions. So we spent actually an hour teaching her how to do emotional freedom technique, so that she can actually do her own work on an ongoing basis to help her let go of any of this toxic emotional stuff that is holding on. Passiflora, thank you. I'm glad you're with me on Instagram. And Suka, thank you. Good to see you there. So that's the first, actually the first full appointment, and then how she progressed up to the second appointment. It's just that easy. Do you see how we didn't bog her down? Do you see how we kept it really simple? We kept it succinct and to the point. We've certainly had several other appointments since then. Katie, thank you. On Instagram, she says, this is awesome. We've had several more appointments, and what we see is that as she continues to maintain her diet work and her supplement work, and sometimes we'll tweak the supplements a bit, sometimes we'll tweak the diet a bit, we always come back to the eyes and what her current symptoms are, and do the tweaking based on that. The eyes are not going to change. They're not going to change as a result of the dietary work we're doing or the supplements we're doing. They are not going to change. If they change at all, it's going to be that inherent predisposition. I mean, we know that people's eyes typically lighten up as they get older, right? I mean, we see that even from birth to about the age of 6, that eyes get lighter. But from 6 to 92, we do see, particularly in those last few decades, that the pigment in the eye can disperse, but that is an inherent predisposition. These are exactly the kinds of things that I teach. Not the kinds of things, these are exactly what I teach, and so much more in Confident Nutritionist Dynamic Iridology. And so I would just like to spend a moment, if it's okay with you, to give you some very basic details about the course, because registration is now open. Confident Nutritionist Dynamic Iridology is the only live online 40-hour fully mentored course teaching constitutional iridology for nutritionists, herbalists, and naturopaths. It is designed to help you do what you've just seen today, and that is streamline clinical work so that you can actually create your client protocols right in your client sessions, right? Too many holistic practitioners do a couple of things. They actually spend their own time after hours writing client protocols, and they donate way too much time to their clients, which sounds maybe bad, but not really. We're going to do another case study in just a moment here. So the goal in this course that's coming up, starts mid-April, is to teach you constitutional iridology and how to use it so that you can confidently integrate it with what you already know about nutrition and herbology and homeopathy and flower essences and aromatherapy and whatever other modalities you have, to confidently create those doable client programs in your paid client sessions. overwhelming clients is never a good idea. Here is another case study. So let's look at this one and see how quickly and how accurately this pinpoints things. You ready? So this is another female client in her mid-30s, and she knows she's got fertility issues. She's actually done a lot of work on her own. She and her husband have been trying to get pregnant for the last couple of years, and in that time they've had one conception and one miscarriage. She did the research and she decided that she had polycystic ovarian syndrome, which is easily assessed. She was originally years ago having one menstrual cycle every 90 days. That is the first definer of PCOS, fewer than 9 menstrual cycles a year, which one every 90 days means 4 a year, so she totally fit. She did the research, she figured out what she needed to do with her diet, and by getting her diet pretty much under control, she got her cycles down to 30 days. I was very impressed that when she came to me, she was able to tell me this and tell me that her cycles were now about 30 days apart, which is ideal, just really excellent. As we look at her eyes, I want you to look really closely. Can you see that it looks like we're looking into the eye? We're looking down in the eye. We're looking down through layers. Well, that's because the iris is made up of layers of fibers that we call trabeculate. And when we are looking down in and we're seeing dark in here, it means that we've got layers of fiber that have separated. You see, I've separated my fingers here, and we're looking down into that little chasm, that little crevasse that has been created there. And the further down we look, the darker it is. And I mean, this is not very deep, right? Your iris is not very thick, but still we see that depth. So when we see this and we see that there are fibers that are laid on top of the eye, and sometimes we actually see it very clearly. It's hard for me to show that using my camera phone. Oh, this image is the better one. Can you see that this fiber looks exactly like it's been laid on the surface, like someone took craft yarn and glued it onto the surface of the eye? Can you see that? Okay, so that is just showing you that the eye has fibers in it. Hi, Misty Banks, good to see you. Thanks for joining me. Okay, so this eye suggests that there may be a personal or family history with a condition that has come to the forefront in the last decade that is called the MTHFR defect. It is a genetic abnormality where the person cannot take in B vitamins and the liver cannot do what needs to be done to those B vitamins to make them usable. So years ago, you might have heard that folic acid can be toxic. And it can be if the person has this MTHFR defect, because folic acid, as folic acid, is not methylated. So this client, with what I see in her eyes, I suspected that she probably had the MTHFR defect. And what we know is that the MTHFR defect and PCOS are like this. So this client can do everything she needs to with her diet, but unless we do something to sidestep the MTHFR defect, she's not going to ever be able to get pregnant well or easily. So because of that, the MTHFR defect is a liver enzyme issue. That suggests there also may be other liver insufficiencies. We also see that, and again, I hope you can see this well on your screen. And can you see that she's got wrinkles in her eye down here and coming up through here? But also notice that this side of her eye looks a little cloudy. That also suggests that she may have a liver enzyme deficiency that is messing up how she handles her carbs, because your liver does a lot of work with your carbohydrates. So I asked her about carbohydrate cravings, and she said, absolutely yes. So in spite of having done so much work to get her cycles balanced, she had not eliminated all of the carbs. And that's absolutely key when we're working with PCOS. So we had to work with cleaning up the carbs. Now, again, To answer her issues, which were, what does she need to do to increase her fertility to get pregnant? We did not need to look at absolutely every marking. Most of these are insignificant for what we needed to work with. So what we needed to work with was getting the carbs under control, helping her liver deal with her B vitamins, and maybe even give her methylated B. And it only took a matter of about 4 months and she got pregnant. There we go, after trying for quite a while. That's all we needed to do with her. We didn't need to overwhelm her. We didn't need to look at every detail. We only needed to talk about what she needed us to talk about. And then you know what happens with these clients is you deal with the problem they came in with and you help them resolve it. They feel so much better, but now that they're feeling so much better, they're aware that they have this other little niggle. And since you helped them with the first one, the first problem, can you help them with the second problem? And this is how keeping a laser focus and really helping the client to resolve the issues that they wanted help with in the first place helps you to build your clinical business. So when we look at the Confident Nutritionist Dynamic Iridology program, it's delivered via 20 live 2-hour webinars, and it contains all of the curriculum you need in order to sit for the IPA certification exam. So that's pretty cool. All of the materials are available to registered students in their student sites. Some of them are downloadable, like your textbook and so on. So the value of this program is $23.95 Canadian. If you're in the States, I want you to go online to a currency converter and type in $23.95 Canadian, how much American. What you're going to find is that's going to come out to be about somewhere around 1,800 American. So it's a decent price, a really decent price, especially considering that the course is delivered over 20 weeks. That sounds like a long time, but what it means is you've got time to study in between. You're not losing time off work to go to a 6-day course, right? You're not having expenses to travel to go to a course because it's online. Yeah, it's a real sweet deal to get this training for $23.95. You're going to go online. I know you are. You're going to find other teachers who are teaching the exact same course. They're IPA certified like I am, and they're charging $2,200 US for you to go to a 5 or 6 day course. Okay, so price comparison is just wild. You also get recordings of every class, so that's worth $23.95 Canadian. Every topic we cover is also recorded and stored on your student site. So it's like getting the class 3 times over. The live webinars, the recordings, and the topic recordings, right? So 3 times over. Total value, $71.85, right? Total value. And you know what? The course is totally worth that, and I totally believe it's worth that, and I know I can sell it for that, but I decided that it's better to price it a little bit differently. Let's see what some of the students have said. This is Sharon Bimrose from Australia. She's a naturopath. She'd already taken iridology as a part of her naturopathy training. And about my course, she said that it surpassed her previous training in structure, content delivery, documentation, and support. It has reduced the time required for prioritizing a treatment plan. And that's exactly what we wanted to do. Helen Murdoch had just completed the course. She had no iridology training, and she says, what a great educational experience. Fabulous. Michelle Davies came to me with tons of training. She had 3 certificates from David Pesic and 1 from Dr. Darko Purse. But she said, most importantly, this taught her how to put it together and make a proper assessment. Most practitioners don't teach how to use it. Stephanie says, I was doing internet searches and got overwhelmed, confused, and then she found my site on YouTube, and she said, this person knows how to teach. She's just finished her coursework and is prepping for her exams. Now, she has a master's in education, so she knows good teaching when she sees it. Karen said this was very interesting. Karen is a CNHP, lots of years of experience. She said, iridology has helped me to understand the relationship between different organs and organ systems more in depth. Gives me the advantage of seeing the potential for different genetic traits and qualities that may be underlying. By observing the constitution, for example, you can extrapolate how the person's body will likely respond to applications of healing methods. It has helped her to expand her knowledge and increased her efficiency at providing more precise recommendations for health-oriented options. So what is the actual investment for this course? This course includes, yes, we're going to look at that in just a moment, $23.95 Canadian if you want to do one payment. If you want to do 5 payments, it's $5.29 Canadian. So again, you want to knock about 30% off that $5.29. That'll show you what your payments are in US dollars. Now, I want you to also know we're teaching this at 2 different times. So if you register for Thursday, your classes will always be Thursday at 11 a.m. Mountain. If you register for Friday, they will always be Friday at 4 p.m. Mountain. So we're doing this because we've had so much interest from people in London, England, that Thursday, that's a great time. That's 6 p.m. for them. And we've had a lot of interest from people in Australia. And so the Friday class is 8 a.m. if you're in Sydney. And I know Australia has 3 or 4 time zones, but gives you an idea, 8 a.m. in Sydney on Saturday morning, which is great for them. Here's what you get for $23.95. We include a digital downloadable textbook. The most popular Iridology textbooks that are out there sell for $250 US. And so you get a digital downloadable textbook full color. You get a digital downloadable iris map. Every teacher makes you buy an iris map. I give you a digital one to download, value of 25 bucks. The cheat sheets. This is your Coles notes or Cliff's notes. So hi, Lorna, good to see you. Thanks for joining me on Instagram. The cheat sheets are the entire curriculum distilled down into 45 pages of easy to use and easy to reference charts and tables. Makes doing an analysis so easy. No other teacher offers cheat sheets. Again, that's downloadable. We also give all kinds of support. We have a private Facebook group for my students and my alumni. And what that means is if you've got a question, if you've got a camera and you've taken iPhotos and you need some help with assessing them, you post them in the Facebook group and we help you. We talk about things. We also have 2 office hours calls every month. So again, here students submit cases they're working on or bring in questions that they didn't want to post on Facebook, and we talk through it, we give them answers. The reason those are both valued at $10,000 a piece, I could put priceless there instead if I wanted, is because you don't ever get kicked out. You know, most programs you do when you finish the program, out you go. I've even had people come to me that have taken Iridology courses from other certified instructors. And when that student went back to the teacher and said, I don't understand, oh, you'll figure it out. Or how do I set up my business? Oh, you'll figure it out. That's not what I do. I'm not going to cut you loose and leave you to sink or swim. We have tons of available coaching that does not go away. I've got students that graduated 3 and 4 years ago that still come to both the Facebook and the office hours calls. And that's brilliant. That's what they're there for us to have community. The office hours calls are also recorded and stored on a student site for 18 months. So if you submitted a case and you couldn't write fast enough as we were discussing it, that's okay. Go back and listen to the recording. Most teachers make you pay to be mentored if you want to certify with IPA. And most of them charge between $500 and $1,000 US for that. So if you've already paid $2,200 for your course and $250 for your textbook and $25 for your map, and now you need to pay another $500 or $1,000 for your exam mentoring, that's getting pretty pricey, right? So I include the IPA Exam 1 and Exam 2 mentoring, which is about 12 to 15 hours of my time focusing one-on-one with you, for you, as a part of the program for the students who want it. If you don't want it, that's fine. You don't have to use it. But if you do want it, it's there to help you. Total value of just everything, not including tuition, everything from line 2 down, is $28,900. When we include tuition, the value here is over $31,000. This is the registration link and tons more information about the program here. So that was a quick breeze through of the program. Again, there's the registration link, iridology.education/priority-April. That will give you all of the details of everything that's included in the curriculum. And if you have questions, feel free to reach out to me. You can either do that on Facebook at Iridology Education, or you can do that on Instagram at iridology.education. It has been a slice having you with me, and I haven't seen any questions or comments come in. So I am hoping that what that means is that everything is crystal clear. But again, if you've got questions, please reach out to me. And if you especially have questions about the program, the course, let me know. I'm happy to answer those for you. Have a fabulous day and stay healthy. We'll talk to you on Tuesday. Bye for now.